2010 November 15th budget meeting to order. Usually over the past several years, how we handled this budget was sat down with the manager and several council members to review the budget to try to keep taxes from not going up. We're projecting for the sixth straight year a no tax increase for borough residents. The millage will be the same. We can go through each part of the budget to show how we arrived at that number. The chief and the mayor reviewed the police budget several times. It went back and forth for cuts until we can get to a budget that we can live with. All the department heads reviewed their budgets several times with the manager, and again, their budgets came in, which would reflect, again, a no tax increase for the sixth straight year. So I'm going to start out with debt service. And if you could, on page 1, if you see on the bottom, it says the millage is proposed to remain the same for 2011. The additional debt service encumbered by the $1.6 million borrowing. There was $1 million for the public works cleanup and the new building, and $600,000 for the property we purchased on Elm and Chestnut Street properties, the acquisitions. It is proposed to be met in part by the street lighting fund, the refuse fund, and the sewer fund. So if we go to debt service, if you turn to the page for debt service, everybody had their budget since the Friday. If you have any questions on that, I know you got here a few minutes late, but what we're doing, we're going through the budget. We're going to start with debt service. As I told council, the police chief and mayor reviewed their budget several times to make sure that they can live with it. All the department heads reviewed their budget. And we're projecting for the sixth straight year, no tax increase to borough residents. So we're starting on page 1 of 3, debt service. It explains how we're paying back the $1 million for the public works building and the $600,000 for the Chestnut and Elm Street property. So we're
Do
just...
that, Ralph. I'm sorry, you again?
Right here.
What page?
We're under the debt service.
The debt service.
Right here, look.
Okay.
So we're going to debt service, which is, there's tabs for each. If anybody has any questions on the debt service, there's 2 pages, either on the revenue or the expenditure side.
All right, let's go back a minute, Ralph.
Pardon me?
I have a question. It takes me back to page 2, but it's related to debt service. On page 2 of the report,
Page 2 of the report.
right from the beginning. General fund, 30 mils.
We're not on that yet. We're on the debt service. We're doing the debt service in alpha order.
This is going to be related, but I'll come back to it if you want to. Well, we're doing the debt service.
I can't understand what you're saying, Jimmy.
He said we can do the debt service.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the 2 pages of debt service, either on expenditures or revenue?
Well, in debt service, 2008, a loan for $519,000 in debt service was paid off.
Where are you, Jimmy?
Page 2 of that report.
Page 2. You got SCADA,
519 that we paid off.
pardon me?
519 that was paid off.
2008.
The 2008 actual was $519,750. 2009, 2010, 2011, it's all zero.
Right,
But we're still collecting the money. Actually, it transferred it over to the general fund, the 4 mills in the general fund. And you did that, and I brought this up last year, about giving money back to the taxpayers. And you're doing it again. Every year, it's that $500,000 that we're overcharging taxpayers.
well, when you brought this up last year,
That's right, I did bring it up later.
and you said to give that 500,000 back to the taxpayers. And then we said to you, well, then how do you want to meet the obligation in the general fund? And your response was to raise taxes.
Yeah, well, you see, Ralph, I said that, but it was twisted. The
said it.
the 500, the 500 some thousand dollars represents approximately 7 mills, right? If you need 150,000, that's 2 mills. You still have, which would have been a tax increase of 2 mills, but you still had 5 mills to give back.
Not true.
Sure it is.
No, it's not.
Bill, it is. First of all,
It's not true. We've
First of
gone
all-
over this before, but it's not true. Do you want me to show you why it's not true?
I'm going to show you why it is true.
All right.
On page 2 that I want to get into, at the top where it says, under general fund millage, the budget proposed deficit for 2011 is $511,000. This shortfall is projected to be met by the general fund, December 31st, to a balance of 558. So you have 550, according to these numbers, you have 558,000 left over from 2010 that you're going to apply to the deficit in 2011. Is that right?
That's what I propose, yes, proposing that to council.
So you're saying there's a
Can I
surplus?
finish? Yeah, there should be a year-end balance that
What I'm trying to say.
that we anticipate, but that has nothing to do with the debt service. That has nothing to do with the debt service.
Well, it does, Mr. Dillon, when you reduce your debt service from 2008 to 2009 by 5 mills, and the general fund millage was increased 4.2 mills. So you took the money out of debt service that we're using to pay off the loan, and you put it in the general fund. Right? Is that a tax increase?
No.
Yeah, of course it is.
If you had money in your drawer to pay your mortgage, but your car payment was due and you used that money to pay your car payment, does that mean you lost the money or you spent the money somewhere
Listen,
else? I don't know, you keep bringing,
When you pay off a car, Ralph, and you have zero balance, and the coupon book is empty, you don't have to make that payment anymore.
okay,
You don't switch it to something else.
okay,
and
well
that's what
then
you
how
did.
do you,
You switched it to the general fund.
all right, can I just say something to you? If we take your theory,
It's not a theory, Ralph. The numbers are right in front of us.
all right, we take your numbers, and we take that $500,000 and give it back to the taxpayers, because that's what you said we should do.
Listen, there's going to be increases from year to year.
Okay, so then tell me
Okay.
what you want us to do.
Maybe it's an insurance, maybe it's contractually, our labor costs are going to go up, or maybe our electric bill goes up,
Everything goes
but
up,
it's not going to go up by $500,000.
okay?
Okay? If it did, when you kept the money from last year, you wouldn't have 558,000 excess or leftover.
Well, no, things came in under budget, the police department came in under budget, there's all different factors to this budget, it's not just one item, it's a budget, it's a working budget. So you're saying to the taxpayers, we paid off a loan for $520,000, we should have gave that money back. And then I said to you,
Less any increases that we
well,
might have had.
no, it balanced the budget. Moving that money over balanced the budget, correct? Now, Mr. Dillon, by his management skills, has worked all year on this budget and made sure we stayed under budget on all our accounts. Some things may have went over, some things were under. Just like Squad 5, we projected 60,000, then we reduced it to 20,000, and I think we spent what, Chief? 2,000 on Squad 5 so far?
A little more.
So there's $18,000 savings. But your theory that you keep saying doesn't make sense, because you're saying, take that money, give it back to the taxpayers, and then to balance the rest of the budgets, raise taxes.
No.
That's what you...
Listen, you...
Well, tell me how to do it.
I'm trying to, Ralph.
Go ahead.
You have $558,000 in surplus from 2010.
Okay.
That debt service that was paid off in '08 is still part of the tax bill that people have for 2011.
Okay.
So now you're going to have $1 million over.
No, you're not.
No, no.
How you gonna have a...
Oh, my God.
You've already got $500 and some thousand. He's admitting in the budget that there's a $511,000 deficit, right? Going into 2011. Okay, so you're behind. You're using that 558 left over, which is a surplus from 2010, to offset that increase, right?
Okay.
But that $520,000 debt service is recurring. You get it every year. But you got it in the form of millage, because you reduced the debt service from 13.82 mils to 8.3. You reduced to 5 mils, but you increased the general fund millage.
Correct.
Partly because your investments have went down significantly over the last few years. That has an
We'll
impact.
get into that later on, Mr. Dillon, but,
I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand.
I really would like to let you explain to us how to give this money back to the taxpayers, because I would love to do that tonight.
you would?
Absolutely.
Then stop spending money on
On
silly
what?
things.
Like
and-
what?
Well, what are you spending it on, Ralph, that you're $500,000 in the hole?
We're not $500,000 in a hole. Our budget balanced every year.
The proposed deficit for 2011 is $511,000.
And
Do I have a different piece of paper?
And
than
we
you
have a surplus which balances the budget. So tell me what's in that budget that is wasteful spending. I'm sitting here.
Well, when we get into capital improvements, we'll get into it.
You want to do it now?
You want to?
Capital improvements,
let's-
the capital improvements have nothing to do with the general fund budget, Jim.
He doesn't understand that.
But you took it from the general, you took it from the debt service. And all I see in here is transferring from one account to another.
That's how the budget works, Jimmy. You transfer everything to the general fund, don't you? Or do you have a new way of doing budgets?
Under capital improvement. You want to get into that, or you just want to go down through? I don't want to take you out of your game.
I
Let's
like
go right down through.
you,
Let's go
I
through.
want you, before we leave here, to explain to me how we can give this money back to taxpayers, because I want to do that tonight.
Okay, we can do it.
We could do it?
Yep, we can do it.
a question?
We can do it.
You know, you sit up here, and this is the 7th year in a row we haven't raised tax. 6 straight years. Basically, that's what your councilman is to try to keep the tax base down, not to hurt people in the pocket. If we have a surplus, that surplus of money is needed. A budget is basically a hypothetic number, Mr. Lutz. I mean, some of the numbers that you see are from 2000, not 2010. But we're just basically going through this, and we're not going to hit it next November right on the dollar. I think Mr. Dillon, I think all the groups that work with us, including George's here, have done an outstanding job. The police department's done an outstanding job of saving us money. So, I mean, just the simple fact that we're not raising taxes, that's a great feeling for me. I know my people in North Ward love that.
So the loan that was taken out, and that was taken out a while ago, maybe 20 years ago. The loan that was taken out about 20 years ago, that was paid off in '08. We paid for that forever, Pat. Is that what you're saying? That the loan, when the skating rink, see, comparable to that is when the skating rink is paid off in 2025, that you keep on taking that $660,000 and from the taxpayers.
You know,
It's the same loan.
You can't make him understand something.
getting back to the
Listen.
skating rink,
We're on
something
debt,
it's something that's an anchor we have to drag, Jim, until we can get someone to get it. That's my theory.
we're on debt service. Are there any questions on them 2 pages from anybody? Let's go to the general fund. It explains to you that,
Before you go there, before you get off of debt service,
that's fine.
okay, because you just made a statement that debt service is not the same thing as general fund. If you're transferring $25,000, I want to know about the totals on the expenditure side. If we have a total debt service of $669,000, which is the year-end estimate for 2010, and a proposal for 2011 of $753, we got about an $80,000 increase in debt service. I guess it's 85. It's about 85,000. Are you with me? Under expenditures. Aside from right underneath the transfer of debt service of $25,000 to the general fund, you have your estimate of 2010 at $669,000.
God, I'm listening.
The proposal for 2011 is $753,000.
Right.
That's a difference of about $85,000. For what?
It's right on the first page.
I read the first page to you. It says on the first page, the millage is proposed to remain the same. The additional debt service encumbrance by the $1.6 million borrowing. $1 million was borrowed for the Public Works cleanup and the new building. And $600,000 was borrowed for Elm and Chestnut Street. How is that going to be paid? It's going to be met by the street lighting fund, refuse fund, and the sewer fund.
Excuse me.
Part of the balance from the debt service fund. So that's meeting the additional debt that's been encumbered of a $1.6 million. So that's why the increase. But again, it's no increase in the debt service millage.
Go ahead. Doesn't answer my question.
Does that answer your question?
No,
It doesn't?
no. No, it doesn't.
5,000.
Do you want to move on, or?
Move on.
Okay. Page 2. The millage is proposed to remain the same. The budget proposed deficit 11 is 511. The shortfall is projected to be met by the general fund. A balance in 2010 of 558. The 30 mil imposed by the state code. The borough may petition the Court of Common Pleas for additional assessment of 5 mils. The transfer revenue continues to decrease during these difficult economic times. In '06, the borough received $253,000 in D transfers. It's estimated this year we'll be receiving about $75,000. The September transfer receipt amount was $2,300. So what everybody understands, that's D transfers of sales and of homes dropped from $253,000 in '06 to $75,000 we're projecting in '11. So using, let me just finish this page. The building permit revenue is projected at $70,000. In '08, the budget figure was $254,000. The earnings on investment in '11 were projecting $850,000 as compared to $1,160,000 in '08. The significant budget decrease is again based on difficult economic times reflected by low investment earnings. Expenditures. The total budget expenditures of $4,849,790. The proposed 11 budget expenditures of $4,934,685. This represents an increase in budget expenditures of $84,000 for 2011, which is 1.75% over 2010.
That's a significant number, Mr.
Right.
DJ.
Now, just to get back to your theory about this $500,000 transfer, Mr. Lutz, if the shortfall was, we used to get $1,160,000 is down to $850,000, and we took in $253,000 in permits, that's down to $75,000, and if we went through everything else, shows you the decrease in revenue. How do you make up that revenue shortfall if you don't transfer funds? Could you please answer that question?
Ralph, I was just reacting to your comment about...
I'm asking you a question, I would appreciate...
I'm giving you the answer. You said we don't take money out of debt service and transfer it to the general fund. And you did that in the beginning of it when you did the 4 mills.
Say this again, Mr. Lutz?
You made a comment about the debt service and the general fund. And you, and I told you that you increased the general fund millage by 4 mills, and you took it out of debt service, and you argued with me.
Decrease the debt service.
The decrease, the debt service used to be 13.82 mils in '08.
When you pay off a loan, it should decrease.
This is like...
That's my point to you.
Okay, I want to
It should, it's right.
I'm going to go
When you
through-
pay off a loan, it should go down.
Okay, it did go down. It went
Yeah,
down.
but you put it in the you put 4 mills in the general fund.
Okay, but...
And then you're sitting here telling everybody you didn't raise taxes. Of course you did. You raised taxes 4 mills.
No, I don't really want to be obnoxious with you tonight. I'm trying to treat...
We're trying to have a civilized discussion.
Civilized.
but-
What I'm saying to you is, if you give back this $500,000 to the taxpayers, which your recommendation is,
Less any increases.
well, apparently, there is no less. So, what I'm saying to you is, please tell me how to do this budget. That's all I want you to answer, that one question. Tell me how to make up the 800, we used to get 850,000, we used to get $1.1 million, almost $1.2 million, now we're getting 850. So that's a difference of what? Angie, you got your 1,160 to 850.
Right.
Wait, that's not me,
You had a surplus in 2010 for a reason.
like, I don't,
That way.
Didn't you have a surplus?
310,000.
10,000 lost just on investments.
And do your transfer tax.
All right. You know, let's go through the budget, Ralph, and we'll come back to this, because we're not going to...
Yeah, we're not going to leave here tonight until you explain this to
Fine,
us.
I'll be happy to explain it to you.
Okay. We're on general fund. I read everything to you. All right, let's go to page 1 of the general fund. Do you have any questions on page 1? Anybody have any questions on page 2? Page 3.
Wait a minute, Ralph.
Are we not doing DARE anymore? Is that why it's all zeros now?
funding from the state. We
No.
used to get some funding.
We're still doing the programs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One minor question, Mr. Dillon, on 342-024-01, the cell tower, that's just for the one unit, right? We have two more that's rentable at that price?
These are our agreements, existing agreements.
But we still have two more openings, correct, if I'm not mistaken? So maybe when this economy breaks, maybe we could fill those two.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Anybody on page 2? Page 3.
Go back to that, Ralph. I mean, Mr. Dillon made a comment about the reduction in the amount of interest that we made on our investment. And he budgeted $850,010, and it's still $850,000. The actual for 2010 is $850, so there's no reduction there.
It was last year when you wanted to do, the reduction was we were getting $1,160,000.
All right, the actual for 2009 was 907, right?
Right.
It went down in 2010 to 850. That's 57,000 less than we got in 2009.
Okay.
Yet we have a $500,000.
But Jimmy,
surplus.
other things went
That's not
up.
what he said. The man said that we got a reduction in interest. Did he just say
No.
that? We got a reduction in interest, and that's the reason why we need that extra money from debt
$310,000
service.
$310,000 difference than what we used to get. But, and I'm telling.
We haven't had that in a long time.
I
Now.
promise this council tonight and everybody, we are not leaving here until you tell me
I'll be
how
happy
to
to
give
tell you.
this money back when we're done this budget. And at any time,
I'll be happy to tell
you
you.
stop me.
I'll be happy to tell you.
Page
You won't like
3.
it, but I'll tell you.
Well, Jim, my statement's in writing, and it says in 2008, the earnings on investments was $1,160,000, and in 2011, it's $850,000. So that's $310,000, decrease in really the last 2 years. And if you go back earlier than that, our interest earnings were up about 1.5, so
Yeah.
there has been significant decreases.
All right, page 3.
Administrative personnel, the 278.2, is that contractual?
Yes.
On page 3,
Page 3.
administrative personnel. We went from 265 to 278.
Right.
I'm thinking that's about 5%, right?
That's what it is.
It's a 5% raise?
It's contractual, Jimmy. The only one did not get a raise is the manager for the last couple of years. What?
You're telling me there's 3 people in this administrative personnel, right? There's 3. Mr. Dillon, Mrs. Fields, and Angie. Is that right?
And part of, we take part of Bridget's salary and Carol's salary because they do administrative work too.
Say that again, Angie.
Not only she's a secretary for license and inspection, she helps us out in the accounting office, like Bridget. Carol also.
So you pay a portion of their salary from this money?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're saying Mr. Dillon's not getting a raise this year?
For one, I'd like to give him one, though.
About the 4th straight year, Jim.
You're not getting a raise?
4th straight year.
You worked 4 years without a raise when you were teaching?
Pardon me?
Got a raise every year when you were teaching, right?
Might not have.
I don't think that went 4 years without a raise.
Not 4 years, no.
Okay. All right, what else do you have?
So we have employees, and if he's not getting anything, his salary is, well, it's not half of it, it might be 40% of that. So that means their raises, the other raises have to be higher than 5%.
Jimmy. The contract, what's your percentage,
Who
Angie?
has a
5%
contract?
in 2011.
What is it?
5%.
5% in 2011.
She has a 5% raise, it's in her contract.
No, everybody.
All right, I need to see copies of this contract.
You voted for the contract.
I want to see a copy of the contract. Uniform, non-uniform. okay?
That was 2
And
years
administrative.
ago, that
And
contract.
administrative. People are getting 2%, 2.5% raises.
Now,
And we're giving 5?
Jimmy, you voted yes for the contract.
All right, let's go on, Ralph.
Wait a minute.
Well, I want to see the contract.
Did you vote yes for the
I voted for a lot of things, Ralph. I want to see it in front of me before I admit to anything. I want to see
You
it.
don't know if you voted for the
I voted for a contract.
You don't know what it was? You don't know what you
Is it a
voted?
5% raise? I didn't
Yeah.
vote for a 5% raise, Ralph.
You voted
I want
for
to
it?
see it. I want to see the contract.
You should have a copy of it.
I want to see a copy of it.
Okay. I mean, the contract's up in 2 more years or 3 years?
2012. Yeah.
So because the economy went in a tank, are you supposed to, we negotiated a contract 2 years ago, a 5-year contract. You're going to go back and say, well, the economy's bad? Page 4. Page 5.
Ralph, on page 4, I got one question. Under legal fees, we budgeted $60,000 in 2010, and the estimate for actuals is 75. It's about a 25% increase. Is that just Mr. Salerno, or does that include all these other attorneys that we hire?
It's others,
Pardon me?
others.
So all legal fees, whether it be Alfano, whether,
That relates to general fund issues, yes.
that would be in there. Okay.
So just think what it was 10 years ago. You remember what that number was?
Ralph, stop talking in the past. I'm not interested in 10 years ago.
You know what that number was?
It was probably about 35, 40, maybe
Page
less.
5.
How much?
Page 5. Anything on page 5?
You hired a policeman, and you said it was going to cut down on overtime. You budgeted $130,000 in police overtime, and your estimate for actuals is $147,000. I thought we were supposed to cut that back.
Well, let me explain overtime to you. Maybe we need to get this resolved, because it's a number that I think doesn't really reflect the overtime. The overtime, right now, we're estimating year-end at $147,000. What happens out of that $147,000, because the mayor had a question on it, I had a question on it, and talked to Angie about it. $50,000 to $60,000, no, $47,000 to $50,000 of that overtime is holiday pay, when cops get paid for the holidays. So everybody gets paid that is off for the holiday, including the cops. So what I like to do is take that holiday pay out of the overtime, because it really doesn't reflect the number, which probably relates close to $50,000 in being paid for holidays. And then that brings it down to $100,000. We're just using round numbers. About 40 or 50,000 of that 100 gets reimbursed, am I correct, Chief?
Yes.
Through the county for drug work and things like that. So basically, on an 18-man police force, our overtime really doesn't run more than $50,000 or $60,000. And on over $1 million payroll, I think that's an outstanding job that the chief does, managing that overtime, and the mayor. So when you look at the number and you say it's cutting down on overtime, this new shift, we feel, cut down overtime dramatically, almost eliminated Squad 5. We were spending $60,000 a year. This year we spent $20-some hundred dollars or $30-some $100 because of the manpower on the street. So Angie, Jim, I'm going to make a recommendation that we put a new line item in that says holiday pay. Unless we don't pay them for holidays anymore, maybe
I thought that when we switched to 12-hour shifts down there, I thought that was going to help reduce overtime. When that's
Are you
what-
listening to what I'm saying to
I
you?
heard what you said, Ralph, but you're showing me more money.
What am I
Let me
doing?
answer your question. Angie, how much of that money in overtime do we get reimbursed from the county?
Just tell-
It's,
How much of that 147
it's in your revenue.
from the county?
Underneath your revenue, it's county reimbursement for police on page 2 of 9. We estimate a year end of $44,000 that we're getting from county.
Almost 50,000.
That's overtime that we get reimbursed from the county.
Page
What
2
page is
of
that?
9,
Page
two of
page 2
nine.
of 9 of your revenues.
Two?
Page 2.
This county,
358,010.
County reimbursement.
44,000, right?
So that's how much we're estimating that we're getting reimbursed from the county in overtime. Police overtime.
So if you take the 44,000 and you take 50,000 off in holiday pay, that's $94,000 comes off of this 147, which brings you to about $50,000 to $60,000 in overtime for the year, which to me is, I think, a great job that they're doing managing this department. I
Let
just,
me ask another question, Ralph. Under, well, I'm still on page 5. Police sick leave escrow. You budgeted 23.3. You almost doubled it. Sick leave escrow, and somebody explain to me what that is. You budgeted 23.3. The estimate is for 45,000.
Angie, you want to do it?
Police officers are allowed to request reimbursement of their sick time they have accrued.
Reimbursement
Here.
for unused sick time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And it just happened this year that officers have asked more to be reimbursed than prior years.
Plus the one officer's retired.
Plus, the one officer, Dominic Lorenzo, is retiring, and he already requested a payout of his sick time.
That's fine.
You with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Ask you a quick question about the crossing guards.
Go ahead.
Oh, 105.6, is that what we pay, or is that any of that reimbursed by the school? We pay half of that?
Right.
Do you think that when we finish this budget entirely, if we look like we're somewhat healthy, we would consider $1 an hour raise to the crossing guards that haven't had a raise in 5 years? Just a consideration, so
That's
it's
fine.
something we can talk about.
This budget, the reason we came here tonight is to go through it, to propose a zero tax increase for taxpayers. It's not etched in stone. We can cut, we can add, we can move things around, however you want to do it, so.
Yeah, I kind of thought that would be a good idea too, since we budgeted for 2010, 133, and we were only up to 85 in September, and since our hours have been cut, I don't think it'll change the budget much.
So you're saying don't increase the hours, increase their raise?
$1 an hour.
That's fine.
It would
I
still
don't have a
cost
problem with that.
effective.
Jimmy, anything else anybody on page 5? Mayor, anytime you want to jump in, feel free. Bobby. Page 6 of 9.
Ralph, under capital outlay, I assume that's another car, 35,000?
Yes.
It is? What car are we getting rid of?
Probably none, but last year, remember you said don't put a car in, and we totaled 3 of them, so thank God we did.
Well, last year you bought 2 cars.
Last-
And the ones that got in accidents, we should have got reimbursed for, right? They
But
should
you
have
don't
been
get
replaced
the,
with
you don't
insurance
get the
money.
whole amount,
What?
you don't get full amount for a car, you know that.
Well,
Brand
how
new
old-
car off
The
the-
cars weren't that old, were they?
But you
The ones
take
that, total?
One was an older canine vehicle, and
What was the K-9 vehicle? What year was that, chief?
2004.
2004 was the K-9. And what was the other one? You remember?
Was.
And we don't know how many we're not replacing a car, we're just buying another one.
No, we're not buying a vehicle, but we have it in there just in case we need a vehicle, and if not, it'll be carried over to next year.
We have two vehicles that are at 80,000 miles, but we're going to try and get by another year with no purchases.
80,000 miles, a lot of miles? I got 140 on mine.
If I can add on to that,
140,000, and I'm not even thinking about it.
if I can add something on.
I got 140,000 miles.
Do you drive your vehicle 24/7?
No, I don't drive it
24 hours a day?
24/7.
And you have more wear and tear on your police cars when they're driving 24/7 than you do. I got 33,000 miles on my 2004, and it's beautiful, but I don't drive it every day, like a police car does.
But then we kind of like figure out, we give the police a certain budget, amount of money, and they would figure out how to spend it. It's really up to them. to
I
keep
mean,
it within the
it's
budget.
been successful. We don't tell, I mean, the mayor and the chief sat down, went through this budget. I think it's a 4% increase over last year. I don't know what else they can do. If you take the car out and we need a car, then what do we do? So, to me, it's been working for 6 straight years. Why change it?
Chief or the mayor can, this doesn't amount to much, but it's a little bit. The gasoline, why is it that we budgeted 26,000, we already used 27, and we estimated to use 35 by the end of the year and 34 for next year? Is that because we don't have our own gas tank anymore? Probably. That's what it's, so that's how much it's costing us extra,
Yes.
$7,000 more?
I think it's going to cost more.
It's going to cost more.
We're closer to the 40,000 mark, I think, by the end of the year.
40,000 by the end of the year?
That's why, Anthony, in the new construction phase, we're going to put a gas station in, because we're spending an extra $7,000 to $10,000 a year for gas.
That's what I thought it was, just wanted to make sure from the experts.
Anybody else on page 6?
I just think leaving that car in there is a key.
Oh, we're not taking the car out. Last year, we totaled 3 cars, God forbid.
If we use it, we use it.
The only thing I want to mention on page 6 of 9 is that the county is going to a new radio system on January 1st of 13. It can be $50,000 to $100,000 in costs to us, Arnie.
If you go approximately 4,000 a radio, we could go up to $120,000.
Cost to the borough.
Yes.
Now, there's 2 ways to handle this. One, we can say, let's put X amount of dollars away a year towards these radios. Or the other way to handle it is hopefully that the county, if they're changing this system, is going to buy these radios for all the municipalities and boroughs and townships that are out there. I'm recommended we sit back and see, look, if we don't buy a car, we know we got an extra, $70,000 or $35,000, whatever it is. I don't know how everybody feels about it. I just think we need to, there's casino money, if you read the paper, that may apply to this radio system.
I think we should just sit back and see how it goes.
And
I'm sorry,
Ron.
Jim and I went to that meeting, and it doesn't look like the county's going to be, it's like $53 million, so I don't think if the county's, they're not going to do much. I think it's smart, I think it's wise to budget for the vehicle, and if we don't use it, put it
right.
aside.
There was a loan in here prior to, if you noticed before, for radios, correct, Arnie?
7-year loan.
7-year loan that the previous administration took out, and we end up, I guess, was for the same thing?
Yes, it was when we
So if
switched
we
radios.
have to in 2012, and we go through 11 in 2012, we'll know about funding and what's going to happen by then. And at that point, if we have to go out and buy the radios, we got to buy them. I mean, there's nothing we can do.
When's this, January?
2013.
And who knows, the way technology changes by 13.
13.
But I know the chief is concerned about it, so I just wanted to note that he wanted to note that, there could be $100 and some thousand cost in 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, page 7. Any questions? page 8. George, do you have anything on page 8 as the highway maintenance?
The only thing that we're looking at this year is possibly another spreader. We have the 2 dump trucks with spreaders and 2 of the smaller pickup trucks with spreaders. What we'd like to do is maybe go another smaller, another spreader on one of the pickup trucks. The costs are going to be about $7,100 for that. We have found that last year in use, which they got a ton of use, they really work well. And I think it showed and after we were done with our streets, how they looked. I mean, I think I made a comment last year about this time. I couldn't wait for the winter, and boy, I want to shoot myself. I'm not going to make that same comment, but again,
Well, I think it showed the equipment that we have purchased, how it worked out for the town, because without it, I don't know how we would have survived last year.
just to touch on that real quick, the equipment, I mean, again, without getting the equipment, we couldn't have done the jobs that we did. That little Bobcat that we purchased last year that you guys authorized, that its first winter was unbelievable. We had a little extra money this year, and we went out and purchased a plow for it.
Yeah, so say, yeah, right, because it didn't come with it.
So that should help in case we get another winter like we had last year. But just the machine itself was a real time saver on our alleys, on our path, on our smaller streets. And again, not only that, but all the equipment we have to remove snow has been great.
Anybody have any questions for George?
Joe, on the Bobcat, how many attachments do we have so far?
With the new ones, this year we purchased a set of forks for it, and like I said, a plow. So this will be number 4.
Do we have a roller,
The brush?
the brush?
We have the brush, we have a sweeper, a regular bucket that comes with it, a set of forks we purchased this year for moving stuff around, or plows and stuff. And like I said, we just purchased a plow that will help us out even more. We found like using the bucket last year, it worked, but the plow will work a lot better as far as moving that.
George, is it the $5,000 allocation here? Is that for the new piece of material? It's road repair and construction material, 5,000? Where is it then, Ralph, the 7,100?
Home improvement, miscellaneous,
Home improvement, last one.
the 18, part of the 18,000.
Oh, okay.
Just another thing I like that we had to do a fence job where we rented a auger that saved, I don't know how much time it saved. We did that fence job in like 2 days. I mean, one day it was just planting the pipes with that. I mean, it was that simple. So again, that machine really pays for itself. That's not a piece of equipment that we would purchase, but it was out there.
Does anybody have any questions for George on his budget? George, thanks for coming in.
Good job,
On to
George.
page 9. Anybody have anything on 9?
Well, we get back to that revenue less expenses, Ralph, and it just doesn't look right to me. That in 2010, we're minus $375,000. Yet we wind up with a surplus of $550,000.
Jim,
Jimmy, where are you? I don't know where you are anymore.
Bottom.
9.
No.
Oh,
Basically, the 2010 budget projected a deficit of $375,000, and we're estimating the year end at a deficit of $204,000. So it's still a deficit, but it's approximately $170,000 less of a deficit. So that certainly is a positive impact. So
But your ending fund balance is 558. 2 lines below it.
And that is going to be used, and it's proposed to be used in the next column to offset the projected budget deficit of $511,000. So a net, if everything goes according to the budget, it's a $46,000 surplus, hopefully come the end of the year, but there are still some significant unknowns. As council's aware, we're still in the middle of negotiations with the police department, and I believe we have another meeting tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully we'll be able to reach a tentative agreement in the next week or so. Otherwise, we'll be going into arbitration, and we probably won't know our true costs until sometime in January or February. So there are still some significant unknowns associated with this general fund budget. I think it's very, very tight, and
Anything else on page 9? Okay, if you go to page 2 in the beginning, things that I think we don't need to address. One is the fire fund, it's 1.25 mils, and that money is a pass-through our account that comes in and goes back to the 5 fire companies. I think it's 16 or whatever the thousand is per year. There's a report in there by our chief. Had the mayor deal with that since he oversees the fire departments, but they're also asking for an increase. At this time, I think to balance our budget, I'd rather keep it the way it is. As far as how it's being divided, I think that I'll talk to the mayor and come up with have him do a report on that. So if everybody's okay with that, we can move. Let me just go through this page. Rescue squad budget, same thing. There's no change. It's 0.75 mils. That money comes in from the taxpayers, gets dispersed right back to the rescue squad. The recreation budget, let's turn to that page. There's 2 pages on recreation. Any questions on page 1 or 2? Please let us know. The millage has been the same since 2009. Okay. Street lighting. Go to street lighting.
Ralph, I have a question.
Street lighting.
Yeah. Under street lighting expense, Pico, $130,000 projected for 2011, or budgeted. Does that include traffic signals as well?
Anything that they power, there's no meter on this, Jimmy.
Do we have a breakdown? I mean, how much we're paying for traffic signals and how much we're paying for street lights?
No, there'll never be a breakdown.
What do you have as a total?
What they do is how it works. They take all the overhead lights in town and they multiply that by a number, by your wattage, and they take all the street lights in town and do the traffic signals. And they come up with a number based on what they feel our usage would be.
let me know if they want to go.
Same way it works in every other township. else on street lighting? Just like to say, the only thing I want to go back to street lighting is just to let council know how important that bucket truck is. If you see, we bought it in '08 for $75,000. We paid it off, and that truck has saved this borough literally hundreds of thousands of dollars by owning that truck. So that was an investment that was very, very worth purchasing.
That and the street sweeper, another very smart move.
All right, so we went through general fund, fire fund, recreation, rescue squad, street lighting, and special roads. It's one page. Any questions on that?
What the GOB note is, what is that, Angie?
Obligation note.
Oh, okay, then I know what it is.
Anybody have any questions on that? It's working out exactly how we explained it. The money coming in for the roads are being paid at no cost to taxpayers. Okay, if you go to capital improvements, there's 2 pages. Any questions?
Well, under revenue, future grants, Public Works Garage, $450,000, and you got $100,000, right?
Right,
Haven't gotten any more, just $100,000.
right.
If we got less money in grants than we anticipated. Then we go down to expenditures. Our expenditures went up from $600,000 in the 2010 budget to $1.3 million in 2011. It doubles. We got less money in grants and double the cost of the garage.
The cost of the garage?
It's, the budget was $600,000
Before we
for
started.
2010. Now it's $1.3 million. Isn't that double? Well, that's what I said. How do we justify doubling that? Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth, Ralph, it bothers me a little bit that you knocked that building down without knowing what it was going to cost to replace it.
Had to knock it down. The engineers, the building was unsafe.
Fine.
You seen the cracks in it, didn't
Fine.
you?
Well, if Mr. Rago was hired almost a year ago, right, to design a borough garage, I haven't seen him since they hired him.
We haven't did anything. We haven't
Well,
paid,
well,
we
maybe
haven't
maybe
paid
that's the
him.
problem, Ralph. Maybe he has to come up here and present something so we have an idea of what that's going to cost.
Well, he will. But we didn't want to waste any money. We haven't paid him a dime for designing anything.
Well, you're only going to pay him once, he's only going to design it once. I don't understand why all this wasn't done ahead of time before we start getting into all these expenses. We have no idea.
What
We did it back, it was done backwards.
What expenses do we incur?
Well, right now, it's $1.3 million.
Does
Explain that to, I don't understand that.
projected expenditures?
Wait a minute, you're saying right now that it is this council's intention, maybe I shouldn't say the council, it is your intention to build a borough garage
Say that
that's going to
again?
cost $1.3 million.
Wait a minute, say that again. It's my intentions?
Well, somebody put it in here.
I did, this is my estimate.
It's your estimate?
It's my
Mr. Dillon?
estimate, based on not only our DEP violations, but future DEP requirements for any new building. So it's my estimate. We really won't know until it's designed, goes out to bid, and council decides whether to go ahead with the project or not. It's just a guide, and hopefully it'll be enough. Hopefully it'll be more than enough. But with the new DEP requirements, and the problems that we're running into down there again with the soils, hopefully it'll be enough.
Well, I find 1.3 million to be an incredulous figure for a borough garage.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to, you start with too many different things.
Huh?
Let me just,
Pat, I'm not a contractor.
so then how do you?
You know what's funny? I brought up a few months ago, actually several months ago, mill run. And the first thing people said to me is, well, Jimmy, how are we going to pay for it? You don't have hard numbers. And I went through this whole spiel. I took all that abuse, and you people are sitting here doing the same thing. There's something wrong here, Ralph. You're a contractor. You want to come up here with some kind of a proposal and let us know what that's going to cost.
This is a rough number.
1.3, you're going to straddle the taxpayers of this town for over $1 million for a garage?
Taxes.
Now, you don't have a site.
Let me
That's
just,
another problem. You mean those tests weren't done? If DEP said we had to clean up the yard because it was contaminated, but you thought it was okay to put a building on it. I don't understand that.
you got 9 different issues on the table right now.
Right now, I'm right here.
Okay, let's go right here. Let's go to 2010, not 11. You said we spent all this money already, right? On the
No, I
building.
didn't say you spent it. You budgeted it. You didn't spend it.
Okay, well,
It was budgeted. But now, what were you going to do in 2010? Well, I should say it the other way. What are you going to do in 2011 that you couldn't do in 2010? If you could build a garage in 2010 for $600,000, why can't you build it for $600,000 now?
for the simple reason that, where do you want to go? DEP, you want to go to a budget?
I want to go all over, Ralph.
Well,
Right
that's
now,
your
I'm
problem.
capital.
You don't wanna stick.
Don't dance around the question. The question is, how do we go from $600,000 to $1.3 million in a year? And what are we doing differently? We're putting on a second story of this garage? What are we doing?
Yeah, we're putting on a second.
What are we doing, Ralph, to go
We're
from...
making an elaborate building.
Apparently you are for $1.3 million.
That's what we're doing. I mean, I don't think. it's
That's
gonna work.
ridiculous. I mean, even think that you're going to build a borough garage for $1.3 million.
You know what, Jimmy? I think that,
Ralph, let's put the numbers aside for a minute. Why wasn't this presented to us in a way before, we're hit with all these numbers? See, now you got us almost at the point where, well, we don't have a garage, so we don't have much of a choice. These things should have been done before. It should have been planned out. We should have had Angelo come up here, make a presentation, show us some sketches, have some builders come up here, give us an idea what it's going to cost.
builders,
Well, who's going to do it? Who's going to build a garage?
here's what I don't understand. Let's go back to, let's just try to clear this up. First of all, we had a DEP violation, correct?
It came out of nowhere.
Which meant the borough yard had to be cleaned up.
Exactly.
Didn't have a number to put on it. Whatever it costs, we had to spend the money to do, correct?
Exactly.
And the
I
10
agree with
million,
that.
it didn't matter.
I didn't like it, but I agree with it. You're right.
Okay, because you sat in that room
I certainly
and
did.
thought the guy was,
I asked for a meeting, I got a meeting.
at a meeting, what did he tell you?
Clean
He
it up.
said, clean it up. I don't care what you say.
I went along with it too, didn't I?
Okay, so it didn't, well, you didn't go along with
It was worth the
borrowing,
meeting.
you didn't
It was
go
worth the
along
meeting.
with borrowing the money to do it. You went along with saying yes to do it. So you want to get something done, but
Yeah,
you
I
don't.
already had the money in there, Ralph,
Okay, but you voted no to borrow the money.
positively.
Okay, but yet you want to clean it with no money. We'll give them monopoly money when they're done.
Yeah,
But-
you got $500 and some thousand dollars
Okay, so
surplus
if you
from
go
this year.
through expenditures.
After did you pay, did...
I'm not going to explain this.
You don't
What?
have to explain it.
I don't have to.
No, of course you're not.
That $1.3 million is only a proposed number. It might come in a lot lower.
Done capital improvement, refuse, everybody knows, it's $360 a year to pick up trash.
Wait a minute, Ralph, I'm not done. We didn't get to page 2 yet.
Capital
Capital
improvements.
improvements, page 2. Gasoline tank, install new tank. $75,000. Now it's $100. Now I want to know where the old tank is.
The old tank's being stored at Danucci's yard, and if we can reuse it, it'll be brought back. He did us a favor and took the tank there at no cost, at his expense,
At Danucci's.
trucked it, and it's sitting in his yard.
That doesn't mean we can use it, correct?
We don't
It has to be checked
We
for
hope-
crack.
hoping to use it,
Move this.
but if we can't, it's being stored there at no cost to us. You wanna go
And,
see
and,
it?
and where have you got these numbers? Where'd you get the $100,000 number, Ralph?
I don't know.
Huh?
I can't answer it.
I got the number based on communications with Bayard Pump. That's our estimate. It's,
Well, the
again,
guys
it's-
I contacted a couple years ago was a lot less than that.
Yeah.
That was a
Less than
couple of
half.
years ago.
Yes, they were, remember?
It's somewhere.
But when we called them, they said you didn't give them all the information.
No, he had all the information. I want to refurbish the old tank, Ralph.
Well, we still have it.
Good,
Call 'em.
let's do it.
Call them up, whatever you want to do. Anything else on capital improvement?
That's it.
Trash is $360 a year per household. That's a pass-through account. We get the money in. We pay Mascara for the trash. I broke that down. Where am I at with that? Trash is, if you really look at it, it's $6.90 a week, which relates to about $3.45 per trash pickup. We have trash twice a week. So when you think about how much stuff is put out at the curb every week, some people put more, some people put less. But for $3.45 to have curbside trash pickup, I think is very reasonable. The sewer budget is just a budget that comes in from the sewer authority. We adopt it as adopting their budget, so we have no say.
They adopted it last week, and there's no sewer rate increase for 2011.
So there's been decreases, but there's no increase.
Mr. State, currently, yes. State liquid fuels budget, yes.
State highway aid,
Yes.
highway aid budget. They called for spending $114,823 to meet the bond obligation associated with the 2009 road program. The bond will be fees and paid off in 2024. Does anybody want to go over that state highway aid fund? And again, that's working out exactly how we presented it to the public. The roads that were all paved is being paid through liquid fuels and at no cost again to taxpayers. So I think we went through every part of the budget. I think the only couple recommendations I like to make is, one, if there's some changes or additions you would like to see, maybe submit them tomorrow to the manager, like Robin suggested. We increase but we also got to talk to the school board on that because they pay 50% of that. I don't know how, I mean, their budget is, they just got done raising taxes, so I don't know how they're going to deal with that. Unless we took on the whole dollar an hour ourselves. I mean, I don't know how many hours are involved. Something to
We
look
can only
into.
do what we can do, so.
I don't know, Betty, I think you had something or no? I sat here today with Mr. Dillon and Angie, and I looked at the taxes, because the perception is about spending money, and the average taxpayer pays around $798 a year in taxes. That's, a mill is worth $73,000.
That's
So-
municipal tax, right?
Right. So if you break it down, if you're paying $798 plus your trash, it's about $15.34 a week that we pay taxes. Some people pay more, some people pay less. But out of that $15.34, Just to give you an overview, you get your streets clean, you got a full-time police department, which we went from 8 men to 16 full-time police officers. Your roads are new, your grass is cut, your ball fields are maintained,
Traffic lights are new.
you got brand-new traffic lights, you get snow removal, all the
Sewer,
trucks for the
yeah.
borough has been replaced, all the cars in the police department's been replaced. You get it, we try to do events to do up, all new equipment down at the borough yard, all new equipment for the police department. The building's been completely remodeled. The path is done, all new street lights throughout town, all new street lights in Mill Street, the parking lot, Jefferson Avenue.
Path lights.
I don't know what else we can do, sitting here as a council, to say that in 6 years, we had 0 tax increase. We provide an outstanding service to everybody, and I think 95% of the people in this town believe in this council. There may be people that, are going to follow people down the road, but the majority of people realize what this council has accomplished. And as sitting here as the president of the council, I want to thank everybody for having the faith and the knowledge to continue this, and to have a manager that leads us in the right direction year after year after year. So although there's negativity from a handful of people that's never going to change, I sit here and say I'm proud to what this town has accomplished and what it has turned into over the last 8 years.
Amen.
So,
Somebody's clapping, somebody's...
Golden Girls.
And when you can make them happy, you...
What I like to do is, I really like to understand this concept. Jimmy, if you could tell me how to do it, and we can finally get this over with, you got the floor for the rest of the night.
Real simple. You paid off a loan in 2008, and we'll round it off to $500,000. You now use that money, or 4 mils of that money, almost 5 mils,
General fund.
but you increased the millage.
Okay.
And you sit there and say there's not a tax increase. When you pay off a loan, you don't have it anymore,
You're right.
right? So, but you took the money and you increased all these other things.
Okay.
But at least say, I raised your taxes 5 mils.
Your taxes didn't go up.
People
Did
are
you
paying-
pay,
people
did
are
you,
paying
listen to
More
me.
than they have to pay.
But that's not a raise in taxes, Jimmy, if they're paying.
Let me give it to you another
That's a
way.
concept. It's a concept.
You've got a surplus of 500 and...
Let's get back to the loan first.
I'm gonna
Don't
come
jump
back-
all
I'm coming back
over.
to that because it's important. The 500 and some thousand bucks that you have was a balance for 2010.
We're
okay?
projecting a
Now,
surplus.
If that represents probably about 7 mils, maybe a little over 7, okay? For the person assessed at 16,000, that's a little over $100 a year extra that person paid. If my house was, or anybody's house was assessed at 16,000, these people paid $100 more than they had to get that $550,000 surplus. You paid an extra 7 mils. So I paid an extra $100 in my taxes on my house, so I could make sure that you had that $550,000. Is that right?
No.
Of course it is. Where'd it come from? Did it fall from the sky? Where did the $500,000 come from? Came from taxpayers.
Anybody else explain this?
Well, and listen, I'm not really good,
You should be the guy to give us an answer, give me a straight answer.
I've tried to explain it to you, Jim.
Where did the $500,000 come from, Mr. Dillon?
Through the general fund, because it just deals with the general fund. It has nothing to do with the debt service, right? So let's go through each account in the general fund, and I'd be happy to do it. If you got time,
Yeah, I'd like to clear this up.
The if you got time,
I have time.
let's go through the general fund budget, okay? All right. The ending fund balance,
Say it again? What page are you on, Mr. Dillon?
I'm looking at, well, let's go with page one. We'll keep it simple, okay? We'll try and keep it simple anyhow. Page one, the budget projected for 2010, when you add up all the revenues, came to $4,474,176. That's on page 3 of 9. Do you see that? So,
Your budget is 4.474 million, and you got 4.463, difference of $11,000.
so that is a underestimate. I mean, we didn't even get the amount of money in revenues that we projected, right? So we budgeted for 4.474,
Right?
176, that was the budget. And we're estimating the actual, I mean, the estimated year end will be $4,463,483. So that's less than what we really budgeted for, which is, significant. So we certainly didn't overstate our revenue, right? Do you agree with that?
Yep.
You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay, very good, okay. Now, let's look at the expenditure columns. Under the mayor, totals there match, 2424, right? Legislative body council, 19,200, 19,200, so there's no change, right?
Right.
Administrative, the budget called for total expenditures of $296,000. We're estimating that we're going to be under that by approximately $5,000.
So you save 5,000
So
bucks?
we save $5,000, okay? So we have that. Angie, you'll keep a run on these for me, please. Now we look at the tax collection effort, and the budget was $16,450, and the year-end estimate, we expect to be somewhat under that at $16,167. So roughly, that's about, what, $270 to the good? So then we look at auditing, legal, and engineering. The budget was $95,000. Year-end estimate was $145,000. So that's $55,000 negative.
It's 50, plus the 5. Go ahead.
50, you're right, I'm sorry. 50,000 negative. The personnel administration, which includes office supplies, Xerox, maintenance, whatever, the budget was $26,400. We estimate that we'll be able to bring it in at $21,800. So that's a savings of, $4,600. Okay? The payroll processing, the budget was $13,300. We estimate that we'll be able to bring it in at $11,700, which is about a $1,600 savings. General government building, which is telephone, electric, capital outlay, building maintenance, cleaning supplies. The budget was $151,000. We estimate that we'll be bringing it in at $132,500, which is roughly a $19,000 savings. $19,300, I think? $350, okay. Now, the police department, the budget was $2,586,247. We're estimating that the year-end expenses will be $2,473,411, which is about $113,000 to the good.
And that is primarily due to the two officers that you didn't have for a long period of time that you had the year before.
Pardon me?
You had two less officers for the better part of last year.
Well, we didn't budget, they were not budgeted in there, so it had no impact. We're comparing the budget to the year-end estimate.
Right.
Nothing to do with the two officers. Fire budget on page 6 of 9 was $20,225. It looks like they're going to be about $185 in the hole. Codification, building, fire inspection, travel expenses, vehicle maintenance, the budget was $54,000. We estimate that it will be bringing it in at $50,100, which is about $3,900 positive. Planning, zoning, legal, zoning, whatever, $295,219. It looks like we'll be bringing it in at $274,775, which is roughly $21,000 to the good. Demolition, rodent control, with budget was $1,500. We estimate that the cost will be $350, so that's about $1,150 to the good. Municipal refuse removal, we estimated at $2,000. The budget was $2,000. We estimate that we'll bring it in at $1,625, so that's a savings of about $375. Highway maintenance is budgeted for $631,500. Year-end actual is $639,564, which is about $8,000 excess over.
Correct.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the horrendous winter that we had this year. Pension, retirement, employee benefits, retirees, life, medical insurance, Social Security benefits, unemployment compensation was budgeted at $588,500. We estimate that it will be brought in at $517,540, so that's roughly $71,000 to the good. Miscellaneous and contingencies budget was $50,000. We estimate that it'll be $50,000. So the grand total of expenditures is $4,849,790 per the budget, and the total estimated expenditure is $4,667,546,000. So that's about, what's that, Angie? Can you give me that real quick?
$182,236.
$182,236 positive, so less savings in terms of our budget. So that basically makes up the difference of an estimated budget shortfall projected in 2010 of $375,614,000. It'll be brought in, we estimate, at a minus $204,000. And again, the year-end actual beginning budget actual for 1/1/10 was $762,000. So with the $762,198 minus the $204, we're now at the $558,000. So our surplus or excess balance or balance is decreasing, as you can see from prior years, to the point that come the end of 2011, we project we'll only have a balance of $46,800. And again, as I stated, we're still in the middle of the peace negotiations, and we're not sure where that's going to wind up, so that's still a significant unknown. So I think every dollar is accounted for in each line item, and it's very self-explanatory if you take the time and try to understand it. That's the general fund.
So you used the 5 mils that you took from debt service. If you pay-
That 5 mils is...
You're getting it every year, Mr. Dillon.
No, it's not. It's not there, Jim, every year. You know,
Yeah, it is there.
it is not there every
Our
year.
general fund millage for this year should be 25.80.
That's insane. That's insane.
Well, then you raise taxes.
We just explained
you know
that
what?
you've lost significant revenue in terms of your interest income alone. That's $300,000. You've lost revenue on your permits by over $200,000, I believe. That's
So let me ask you-
$500,000
I'll
there.
ask the question another way, Mr. Dillon. If the loan wasn't paid off, if we were still paying on that loan, what would you do for that $500,000?
I would say you'd have to raise taxes if you still have it.
Thank you very much. Here's my point. Thank you very much. You'd
Well,
have to
we did
raise
have to raise-
taxes.
We did have to raise.
And that's what you did.
That's what you,
That's no
And
point
that's
at
what you
all.
did.
That's a hypothetical. It's nothing.
that's what you said we should do.
If the
You
loan,
said
if we were still paying on that loan, you wouldn't have that 500,000, or that those 4 mils in the general fund. You'd have to raise taxes.
That would be one of your options.
And the loan
One of
was
your
paid
options.
off, and you're using it, so you raised it.
You had said to council last year to give the money back to the taxpayers, and then to balance
Last
the,
one.
wait a minute, to balance the general fund, we should raise taxes. Now, did that make sense?
You know, if you need 2 mils to pay your increases, your inflationary figures, then you have 5 mils. How can you do both, Ralph? If you have 2 mils in increases, in inflationary increases, and you have 7 mils, you keep 2 and give 5 back.
Okay, if you give the 5 back with contractual, I don't think there's anything, I think 98% of this budget is contractual, would you agree? With salaries and benefits and
I don't know.
90, whatever it
I'm not a
is,
CPA,
whatever
but-
number you want to use. My question to you is, electric went up, health insurance, all these things go up. If I have 4 million in this end and 4 million in this end, right? It balances. Next year, I need 4.5 million in this end because of increases in salaries and contractual things. And I don't have it here. Tell me, what do I do?
I don't expect you to admit it, Ralph. I really don't.
So you never want to answer, you
But-
never have a
but-
solution to the problem.
I
You
gave
always,
you a solution last year, you didn't like it.
you said
You
give
have
back the
again this
money.
year, and you'll have the money again next year. The people in this town, the taxpayers in this town, will be paying on that loan forever, because it'll always be in the budget. It'll always
Not
be
in
there
the
somewhere.
budget. It's not in the budget.
It's in the general fund, you
It's
increase
not
it
in
5
the
mils,
budget.
Mr. Dillon.
It's not in the budget.
It's not?
No, it's not
Where'd
in
it
the
go?
budget.
Let's put it this
Where'd it
way.
go?
Let's put it this way, Jimmy. If you didn't have that loan, let's forget about the loan. You never had the loan, and you needed to pay our salaries and health care and everything that goes with running this budget. Where do you get the money?
You either gotta cut, listen, I could cut $100,000 out of this budget without blinking an eye.
Where?
Where?
That's why we're here
You
tonight.
got a car budgeted for $30,000 that you're not even gonna use.
Okay.
You got $25,000 for community pride. You said you raised $17,000. You don't need $25,000
You want to
for that.
cancel it?
Huh?
You know why they raised 17,000? For the hard work and effort of this committee.
Fine. You asked me where to...
But I'm saying
You asked
is-
me where I would cut 100,000? I just gave you 55
You
without
wanna-
blinking an eye.
Listen to me, do you,
You got the Burr Garage at $1.3 million.
That's
I
a
can have a lot of money
It's gonna
without.
cost?
hypothetical number.
Well, you should know what it costs, is my point.
Why? We don't have it designed yet. How do you know what something's going to cost until you design it? You want to pay Angelo to design a building?
Listen,
And the building...
I didn't, talking about the voting, I didn't vote for Angelo to begin with. I think that we've got enough talent and enough skilled craftsmen in this town that we got enough guys in that garage could build that garage. You could get a prefab garage, similar to number 2 Firehouse. These guys could do the concrete work, and they could put the building up.
Do you
There's no
realize,
question in my mind that they have the talent to
there's
do
a
that.
law that you have to follow to go out to bid? You want to answer that question? There's a law.
The law says you can't build your own stuff?
You can build it, borough workers can. I can't go build it.
Borough builders can't build a borough garage?
Borough builders,
The borough workers, can they? build-
workers, no. They're going to build a garage?
Can they do it? A prefab?
Our street and highway department.
Yeah, we got guys in there that are very talented.
That could build a
cement
building
masons, could lay the foundation, positively.
with electric, plumbing, heating.
You got guys on a bucket truck doing stuff with electricity that they shouldn't be
Changing
doing.
light bulbs.
So don't tell me they can't build a garage.
Street and highway, guys, you want to build,
I think they could do it. I got faith in them. I think they got enough talent to do it.
Oh, I say let them try. Come on, let's get him. Yeah, get George back here.
best thing I heard in a long time.
Prefab building snaps together like a
Build
little
us a
erector set.
garage.
Pardon me?
Like a little erector set, a prefab building. Prefab
I
building.
think we should use engineers or anybody then, just
Take her
go build
choice.
it.
What's she gonna get?
That was a good laugh.
You know what I think the question should be asked on, if councils went 6 years without raising taxes and spent all the money that Mr. Lutz claims we spent wastefully, and we did all these projects with all the things I talked about earlier, where was the money previously? Where was that money at? If we're not raising taxes and we're spending all the money that you're accusing us of spending, which you could see, a new building, new cars, new trucks, new roads, where was the other money?
Well, I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. But
I just-
I'm gonna give you one quick one, and I'm gonna tell you where it all started.
Know when it all
When you
started?
renovated the second floor of this building, you took $1 million from the sale of a piece of borough property. And if you don't think that's tax money,
Sure it
then
is.
there's something, now you're saying it isn't. We did the whole building and not
And
the
when we
tax
had
rate.
an audit done, the guy that came in said you never take one-time revenue to pay a bill, and you agreed with that. You agreed with that theory, not to take one-time revenue to pay a bill that's a reoccurrence debt. Take that money and spend it in the capital improvement. You agreed, you voted for that.
So don't sit there and say, where'd the money come from? You had $1 million to play with, Ralph.
Well,
You sold
that's
it-
the
you
question
sold it
I
an
think,
asset
the
in the
question
borough
I
that
think
we no
needs to
longer
be
have.
asked is, if we're doing all this without raising taxes, where was the other money?
Well,
Where
you
did that go?
You did raise taxes.
Where did that money go? Answer that one for me.
The bottom one.
I'm going to ask to have a motion to adopt
Oh, I thought we were gonna adjourn. Oh, I gotta.
the preliminary budget, to add it for adoption at the council meeting on December 13th.
Are we gonna do it again on Wednesday or not? I mean, I don't know that we
I don't
have
see any
to.
reason
We
to
don't
meet.
No, I
need
think
to.
we don't have
We don't
to.
need to.
Does anybody have anything, Jimmy, else?
Don't ask, Jimmy,
I
please.
may, Ralph. I tell you what, if I do, I'll
I
write it
don't.
up.
Chief, you happy with the budget? You're, Leo? Pat?
Anytime that we can go through a year and not raise taxes to our constituents is a big plus.
Do what we're doing.
Continue to keep this town looking good, keeping up with the vehicles, keeping up with the technology like the streets, street lights. I mean, this borough has gotten over $6 million in grants that we went out and fought for. I mean, to say that we're raising taxes in any way is absolutely ludicrous.
Betty?
When we first started 6 years ago, I remember going over the budget and sitting here for hours and hours and days and days. So on that note, and I'm hungry, I want to thank Angie and Mr. Dillon and you and Bill for working hard and having it here and ready for us and making it easier for all of us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm okay with adopting it also. I think that the goods and the services that we provide,
Yes.
and just let me say, if I had a $700 a year tax bill and it didn't go up, and if I got the goods and services that I got in this town, I wouldn't care how that was distributed throughout.
Exactly.
I would be okay if, as long as my taxes didn't go up, how you maneuver that money around, that would be okay, as long as my taxes don't go up and I have the goods and services. I hope I took the words right out of your mouth.
I'm sorry, Pat.
I think a lot of thanks has to go to our manager, Mr. Dillon. Did an outstanding job with this.
I agree.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dillon.
Mayor, are you happy with everything? You're happy?
Fire, you and I'll talk about the fire.
Right.
Fire budget.
See what we can do with that. I mean, just for public knowledge, 1 mil is worth $16 per person. So if you cut a mil off your taxes, you probably cut $16 a year taxpayer. So what it comes down to is, can you knock two, or like Mr. Lutz said, knock 2 or 3 mils off and give somebody $32 or $40 back a year? I'm sure if we shaved this budget, we all can sit here and crunch numbers and really keep our fingers crossed and say, yeah, we could cut 2, 3 mils. But as the services we're providing, on the other hand, to me, I rather keep the budget where it is. No if we have to move money from different funds, we move them. But if, as a taxpayer, and I'm sure I pay more taxes than a lot of people, I rather spend the extra $16 or $32 a year and keep getting the services that we're getting in town. Anybody else? Jim, solicitor?
Motion to adjourn?
No, we
Oh,
need,
motion, I'm sorry. Motion to adopt the budget at the December 8th meeting? 13th meeting?
I like this
Oh,
stuff.
you'll be ready.
Come on.
Anybody wing it? I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed budget for 2011 at, and, Billy, what's this say? What's this word?
Advertise for the adoption of it.
And advertise for the adoption of it.
I'll second it.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Before we adjourn, anybody in the public have anything? I mean, you've been here all night, I don't know if you have anything you want to say before we adjourn?
I think, go to the mic. Go to the mic.
If they raise the taxes, okay, it would hurt people like me, and that might hurt a lot of other people in this town.
And I think they're doing with the money that they have. Our town has never looked so good. And I think you have to agree with that, just like everybody else. So like I said, if they raise our taxes, people like me will be out of my home. And it won't only be me, it'll be plenty of people in this town. So we have a beautiful town, we have beautiful roads, and we can be proud of this town when we get visitors in it. They say, this is Bristol. It used to look like...
That's right.
And that I heard from my own nephew. He said, oh my God, I can't get over this town, how beautiful it looks. We can be proud of this town now. And if we don't have to raise the taxes, thank God for that. So that's all I have to say. I think you guys are doing a good job, all of you, everybody. And you too, Jim, because you are bringing...
Well, thank you very much.
No, really, because you are bringing to the level you want to know, people want to know. He can answer these questions, and that gives him a chance, and it gives Mr. Dillon a chance, and everybody in this room a chance to say, I think we're doing a damn good job. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
Patty, you want your motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?